Justin Konikow, thank you so much for taking the time to come and sit with us. I know it's been a couple weeks in the making there. How you been? How's your day going?
Yeah, it's awesome. Just got up super early. I already had a sync meeting with my team, get all the balls up in the air, and I had a really good mentor of mine once tell me you can control your day till about 10 a.m. After that, you're just reactive, right?
Complete chaos.
Yeah, just in it right now.
Yo!
Nerds.
Yeah. And I saw your recent YouTube vlog, and even out in New York, you weren't really going out and partying. Like, you wanted to make sure you got up early.
Sure.
And you were right after it. Like, what's your morning routine? Like, what is that exactly that you're doing?
Yeah, I'll reference both. I'll start with New York and then I'll explain my morning routine. So when I go to events like Sell It in New York, for your audience, I was with Ryan Serhant speaking at his event. That was quite a long time in the making. So I've worked closely with Ryan since 2018. His team's fingerprints are all over what we're doing at Prime, and we're in collaboration with them. People see the photo ops and all that stuff, and they assume it's just paid placement, but it's not.
Yeah.
His ops team is unreal. His branding team's really good, and they're family. So hadn't gone to New York for a couple of years, and this was the big kind of coming home for me because I started in 2018 with him. So when I go to events like that, I'm very intentional of like, what do I want to get from it? As much as I can get distracted with all the parties and all the events that are going on, I have big goals and big ambitions. So one was to actually deliver on stage and provide a ton of value, which meant that I had to be pretty disciplined with my diet and cognitively so that I was clear. Two was reconnect with a lot of those people and make new relationships. Ryan has incredible aptitude for bringing in billion-dollar developers, top agents around the country. So when I was going to the event, I spent a lot of time actually connecting on IG first with people and then having a system to follow up with them after. So if you're an agent I met there, we connect, I DM you. So Instagram starts showing you my stuff. I see your stuff. We can start building a relationship. But hey, you cover Houston, Texas, hit this link. I'll get you into my agent referral map so that when I get home and I get a call off YouTube, hey, I need an agent in Houston, Texas, we're now doing business, right?
Okay.
So that's why, I brought two young guns with me. They were in the big city. They stayed out late a couple nights. Yeah. For myself, I was going as the business owner. And that's why the regiment. In terms of my morning routine, this has been something I've worked on for a decade. For myself, I think of my life in a stack of what's important. And I think I used to make mistakes of it's all about business. It's about sales. And putting that first left me feeling really depleted from a family perspective, from a fitness perspective, mentally feeling burnt out. So I reversed the stack, and my stack is faith, family, fitness, fun, finances. So that stack is how I start my morning routine. So I wake up typically 5 o'clock. I'll grab some water. I'll grab my Bible. I'll jump in an infrared sauna. I'll pray. I'll read the word. I'll journal a little bit. So I get my spirit and my mind right. Then I move my body. So I work out first thing in the morning. Before I even open Instagram, before I touch my emails, before I message you this morning, I've already kind of done my workout. Yeah. So I get my mind right, I get my body right, and then I plan my day. So nobody's usually up till like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock these days. So from 5 to call it 6, I do my workout. 6 to 7 is kind of a hard reset. Sometimes I'll read and I'll write, which is the blogs that I write online. Yeah. 7 to 7:30, I'm brain dump, and then I categorize. So everything that's in my mind, I put it in what I call my digital brain, and I sort it. What's critical that I have to do today? 7, 30, 90, 365 days out. That gives me a really good ability to do a lot of things and not have it take up mental space in my brain where, I got to remember to get back to that person, or we're working on this project. How do we move the ball forward? Or when I sync with my team, have them feel like I'm somewhat organized and we're not building the airplane while we're flying it because I've lived that life. Mm-hmm. Then I do my comms. So I don't actually touch my emails till typically 7:30 to 8. Also got taught by a mentor. We have this terrible habit of reacting to email all day, right? Like people can come at us, text message, Instagram DMs, email, WhatsApp, you go on and on, Slack, you go on and on, right? Most people get email overwhelmed because they don't set a block of time where all they're doing is email. So I set the standard with my clients and people that I check email 3 times a day. That's it. I have a team that checks it throughout the daytime, but 7:30 to 8 o'clock, I'm scanning, categorizing, and organizing it. 12 to 12:15, quick scan, anything pertinent, that needs to get dealt with today, that moved to the critical list. 4:30 to 5. After 5, don't expect me to check my email. You have my cell. If you need to reach me, it's important. We're doing a deal. Great. We'll get a deal done. Now I've set the standard and I'm not reactive and checking my email every 25 seconds. 8 to 8:30, I sync with my executive assistant. Learned that from another mentor where Richard Branson's main assistant, Anne, he does an 1.5-hour meeting with her every day. Okay. And they go over, what are we working on? Any roadblocks that you have, you don't know how to respond to an email or answer a question from the team, and look at the calendar for the next 2 weeks to 30 days. By the time I'm done that at 8:30, I've done almost 2 full days of work for your average human being. And the world hasn't woken up yet. Yeah. Right. So then my EA really knows how to delegate to the team and answer questions that I'm not the best person for anyways. And then I'm in it. Right. Then I'm training with my team. We're doing what I call the red zone meeting for my actual sales team. And like, I'm an active real estate agent. A lot of guys in my position, they build the brokerage, they build the name. They're not actually selling. Yeah. They're giving out leads. They have no idea what's happening. They're not in the trenches. They're not doing deals. I am. I was talking to a developer when I was walking up to your door about 6 premium lots we have in Lambeth for Halcyon Homes. Beautiful project. And we were setting standards, right? Like, I'm in it. So I meet with my team, and I like to do my team meetings with what I call the lead principle that I learned from Glenn Lundy. You're noticing a pattern I learned from other people. Mm-hmm. Glenn built one of the best car dealerships in the States. Amazing book that he wrote. And the lead principle is listen and empathize. So we start off our meetings, have a chat around what's going on. You have any roadblocks? Got to offload anything? And then you dump your problems on me, which is great because I can empathize and be like, oh, that's like a 1 out of 10 problem. I had that 2 years into the business. This is how you solve that and help you, right? Yeah. That takes down your wall. Then we lead into an accountability portion. So LE, listen, empathize. A, accountability. You were supposed to call 50 people yesterday. How many did you call? 10. What do we got to do to make sure you hit 50? Yeah. Do you need better training, script, role play? Awesome. The last portion of every meeting is D, develop you as a human being. Scared to make calls. Cool. Let's role play. There's only 3 conversations you're going to have with a lead. Are you in the market? Yes or no. If it's, I hate you, don't ever call me again, then trash that lead, get him out of the database, clean it up. If it's, no, I'm not in the market. Oh, is it interest rates? Yeah, it is. Oh, so you are actually in the market. You just don't know how to approach the market. Cool. Or yes, I'm absolutely in the market. Right. So that's kind of right up to about 10:30. After that, I also find that making sure that I have white space to think and create is super important. So do all the important work first thing in the morning, all the learning, the prospecting, the team building right up until about 10:30, 11. Then I build space to create and work on complex problems in the business, systems, processes, marketing. It's my building time. Then right around lunchtime to the rest of my day, it's my creating and my doing time. So creating content, engaging with my community on IG and other places, doing deals from like 1 to 4 to 5, and then family time. Right. So that's kind of the pattern.
That's literally such a great roadmap of like how, like, it's like of someone who's successful, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like the way you laid that out and it was so seamless. It just goes to show that you've been doing this for so long. Like, A, how long have you been doing that? And B, like, what made you want to transition to doing that?
I'll go back to the martial arts analogy. Yeah. You go to a jiu-jitsu gym. It's terrifying because you're like, am I going to get beat up and choked out and put unconscious? No, because the black belts are going to take really good care of you, right? But to learn how to do an armbar, you can read all the books you want. You can watch YouTube videos all you want. You have to try to do an armbar. Yeah. So I've been doing it my whole life. When did I actually get organized on it? I would probably say only really the last 2 or 3 years has it really come to the forefront. I've always had a pattern, but I try stuff every year and then I rejig my schedule. So like I'm coming into that season now where every fall I set my goals and I reset my calendar and I front load my year. Right. And the one caveat before I get into the next part is I only hit that schedule like 60 or 70% of the time. I'm a human being. I screw up all the time. I fail every single day. But my 60 or 70% is better than 95% of the world who doesn't have a plan. Yeah. And if you don't have a plan, you have a plan. Your plan is just not having a plan, essentially. Right. So going back to the business planning, that's super important because then I really look critically at faith, family, fitness, fun, finances. What are my goals in all those spaces? And then front load my calendar. So here's a fun one for family. You can steal this blueprint. Once a year, take an awesome trip, 30 to 60 days off if you can. Go road trip the East Coast. go overseas, whatever. Then once a quarter, take 7 days off. Maybe you're going to Collingwood or Muskoka, right? Once a month, take a 3-day weekend. Maybe it's a staycation. Once a week, do something that scares you. So the key is you build your roadmap and then you actually put it in your calendar and then it's there.
Yeah.
So as it's coming up, you're like, oh crap, that trip's coming up. Like, am I actually going to do it? And then you really have to be accountable every year. And if I could only judge you by two things, your calendar and your bank account, and you couldn't tell me any of your goals or ambitions, what would that actually tell me about you? Right. So I try to live by those principles as well.
You have this really strong leader role that you play. Have you always been a leader throughout your life?
No, I actually don't think I'm a leader as much as I'm a servant, to be honest with you. I'm here to serve the people that are in my ecosystem, my clients, my team members. I think that's the real heart of what I do. I think I've thought I was a leader before too, and that like I wanted to have a leader position, but I don't. I realized like I was in hospitality. I ran Jim Bob's and Cools forever.
Yeah.
And like I was always the guy making sure that the party was okay and like music was good, everybody was taken care of. And I still feel like I'm there making sure everybody's got water and making sure that the plastic forks and knives are at the office and I'm taking out the garbage, right? Like I'm more a servant than I am a leader, if that makes sense.
I also did like notice that in your vlog, you did say that at one point you were wrestling with God and you were wrestling with your wife. Can you explain like what that was like?
Sure.
And I know what got you out of it. You said it was the people around you that you surrounded yourself by. But take us through that experience, because that was interesting. Because like wrestling with God, I found very interesting because I feel like it's a good thing to wrestle with God. But can you explain more on that?
Well, I mean, there's a story in the Bible about it, right? And it's something that if we actually pay attention to, all of us are dealing with it every day of our lives. And I still wrestle with God and I still wrestle with my wife. I think what it came down to was, for a very long time, I had faith as a child, fell off hard. I grew up in Montreal and I had to leave Montreal because it was way too much fun and I was around the wrong people. And I had these three opportunities in my life where I saw this glimmer of like what my life could be if I went down the right path or the wrong path. And the wrong path was being dead or in jail, and the right path was unlimited success. But I feel like the wrestling part was like seeing through a glimmer in a curtain, but me having to make the decision of like where I'm going to go, right? Because people like to blame God for all the things that happen in the world, when in reality, it's the decisions we make as a human being. And the same thing with my wife, like in tandem, I never wanted to be a real estate agent. Like I was at Cools and Jim Bob's and I was running all the marketing communications. I was an active manager. I was making great money working in the industry. But I was getting married and I had to make a decision on where we wanted to go. And my wife kept mentioning real estate. And my initial reaction was, I don't want to be a grease ball on a golf course. Almost as if like what I did as a job defined me as a person, because that's what I thought of real estate agents. All they cared about was a commission check. They'd say anything to get a deal done, which some of them are that for sure.
Yeah.
But when I stopped, she kind of tricked me into getting my license. But when I started doing it, what I realized, what she saw in me was somebody that liked serving people. That had drive. And she's like, I just wanted to point that energy at something with an unlimited potential. You weren't designed to work for somebody else and you could create your own future, right? And that's where I was actually able to take media and real estate and merge them in a career, doing videos, doing content, to do two things that I loved, make good money doing it. And same thing with God. Like I dealt with addiction issues for a very long time. And it was when I stopped thinking that I was the hero of the story that everything changed, right? And when I gave up, and I still pray daily to God, I'm like, take away my platform, take away my business, it's yours, do with it whatever you want. And every time I do that, and I feel like I give him the ability to open and close doors for me, whether it's terminating an employee, changing directions, losing clients, getting clients. If I'm not tied to the outcome and it doesn't define me, then there's no sense of failure. Where I think most people, podcasting influencers, real estate agents, business owners, where they really struggle is they lost a client, they lost a deal. What are people going to think about me? I don't have any followers. And that to me is that dark curtain that they tend to draw towards, versus if they realize that all those failures are going to guide them to the best version of themselves that they can be. Everybody has unlimited potential, right? And it was when I stopped wrestling and fighting and thinking that I'm in control.
Yeah.
I'm going to make the deals happen. Just give it up and just be there to serve. Everything changed, but it's a daily battle.
Yeah.
Right? Where the human side of me still comes back. And when I stopped living for myself and I started living for a higher purpose, I stopped hating myself for the successes or the failures that I perceived successes or failures I had.
Yeah, that's interesting because like as an entrepreneur, like I could see how like you kind of feel like you're the main person of the story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm the one dealing with this. I'm the one burning all the fires and stuff like that. But it's interesting how you're leaving that up to God. You know what I mean? And just not judging yourself for it, which I think is very powerful.
I was in a mastermind this morning called Breakfast with Champions. It's actually where I met Glenn Lundy. And we had a conversation, and Ramon Ray was sharing this, and he speaks on the National Speakers Bureau. He sold multiple companies. Great guy.
Mm-hmm.
I could probably get him for you as a guest if you wanted. And he was sharing some vulnerabilities in his business. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, I'm like, that's the most powerful thing you can do, Ramon. He's like, why is that, Justin? I said, well, most people in this space or in business like to talk about their successes. They name drop because they think it gives them clout.
Yeah.
What I've learned being around people like Ryan Serhant, Scott McGilvery, I'm name dropping them right now because they're people of reference, is most people that act like they have it don't. Most people that actually have it, most people that act like they have it don't have it. And most people that have it don't act like it. Most people that actually have it are constantly talking about their failures.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to bring up that next generation, or they're sharing that like this was the unlock for me, right? Like this is what made me realize what the next version of Prime was. And that I'm not the hero of the story. And Prime's a portion of who I am as a human being, but it doesn't define me. Justin's got a lot of interests well beyond that and is more of a complex human being that defined by the fact that you guys run a podcast. You have other passions and other relationships that this is a great vehicle to bring in more people like you to your community and ecosystem. And you'll do business outside of the podcast like we just talked about with the company that's here. And like there's probably a synergy with us. And you'll find that through the work you do. But I think too many people get transactional in relationships, real estate agents especially. You can make a lot of money selling real estate. You only become wealthy through the depth of relationships you make through the work that you do. And I think it took me 42 years to learn that. And I'm sure I'm still going to learn a bunch more.
Yeah. And when you first became a real estate agent and then like you created Prime, right? Your wife and yourself. Take us through like what gave you that sort of like drive or motivation to create something so big. Like you weren't just a regular real estate agent, you know, you saw more for yourself.
Well, the pathway is a lot simpler than that. It was, I want to be an agent and sell a house. I want to be an agent with my wife and sell a bunch of houses in a neighborhood, a bunch of houses in a city. And then had too much business to deal with just on our own. We kind of just happened by accident. Hire an assistant, hire a buyer agent to work with me. He worked with me at Coolest for 20 years. I trusted him. Start building that out. But then it was that yearly reset of like, what are we building and why are we building it? I think I saw a huge opportunity with agents that just don't work hard. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, in society today, if you're willing to put in a 70-hour work week or even a regular 50-hour work week, you will eat their lunch. If you're willing to be disciplined and actually make your phone calls and follow up on your promises, you'll be a millionaire. Everybody in this room, everybody watching this. Because the bar is so low. Like we've had 20, 30 years of abundant success in North America. Yeah. It's why we see the problems we see everywhere, right? People don't have an appreciation for hard work. My VA is in the Philippines. My executive assistant has been with me 4 years. She's in the Philippines. Wow. And we talk about it all the time. Like people don't work hard here. Like half my staff is Filipino. And they get it because they're like, their approach to work and how we do life, family's super important to her. Showing up when you're asked to do something, you do it on time to the best of your ability. And Shannon and I identified the real estate industry is also changing dramatically, right? So one book I'll give to your audience that they should read is called Blue Ocean Shift. I think that was a major unlock for us in 2015. And I talked about industries where everybody just fights over the red ocean, the blood in the water, right? This is how it's always been done. This is how you do it. Commercial real estate, residential real estate. It's all the same, right? I looked at technology and I was like, go back 100 years. Back in the day, if you wanted to buy real estate, you had to call me because I had a book of all the listings. Yeah. Right? And I could do what was for sale. And I was the only one that could show you the houses. Then technology came out, MLS came out. Yeah. But you had to call me because great, you want to see that house, but what did the house next door sold for? I was the only guy that knew that. Technology kept coming. Now sold data is out there. The world we live in today, MLS is a tool that we have, but my value is way more than MLS because that data is important to you. But I would say 90% of consumers don't even realize it's great to know what the house sold for next door. Why did it sell for that? Yeah. Was there a divorce? What's the relationship that the agent had with the other? Was it a good agent that actually sold it or did they suck? There's a lot of listings I see get posted, sold, and I'm like, that would have sold for 60 grand more in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I had a buyer for it, but that shady agent double-ended it before it even hit the market because he had a buddy screwed over the seller, but the seller feels great because it's sold over asking. So, hey, right? Like that's the reality of the world that we live in. So for Shannon and I, from the real estate perspective, that's where like, we're not a brokerage. I'm not an agent. We own a company that specializes in the marketing and sales of real estate from a high level perspective. We're more of a digital agency that specializes in real estate. And I think we're going to triple down on that because MLS, as great as it is, has massive problems where there's no crossover between the pipelines of data and information, which none of you would know about. But the Toronto Real Estate Board doesn't talk to the Huron Real Estate Board, doesn't talk to Windsor, Sarnia, Chatham. And consumers have one that gives them everything. Mm-hmm. My value as an agent when I'm advertising a property is understanding that, but then also building a platform. So if I'm selling your house, I get 5 to 10 times the amount of views and leads off my platform than Realtor.ca. So now the world is going in a direction where attention is more important than the tool. Yeah. I use the tool, but now what we're looking at is, well, essentially, could we build our own platform that would rival the MLS one day? And that's the reality of the future, is I think organized real estate is going to change dramatically over the 10 years. We're going to have a place in it, but it's going to be very niche to serve a specific type of consumer. There will be brokerages out there that are discount brokerages, that are marketing companies that don't do what we do. Yeah. We're a high value service looking for high value customers, not a cheapest, fastest option. There's other brokerages out there for that, right? Mm-hmm. So
why is it that these cities aren't talking to one another? Like is there a promise in the future?
Ego and politics. Regulatory capture is a huge problem everywhere, right? From a governmental level, it's why we're not building houses. Cities get too fat, and I want to do a apartment tower with you. We go to the city and there's 9 different people involved and they all have opinions on what we can build. And it goes from his desk to his desk to his desk. It takes 10 years to build a project in Toronto, 5 or 6 in London. And they're getting their lunch eaten by smaller towns that are fast. St. Thomas wants business. Alvingston wants business. Or not Alvingston. Watford, Lucan, they're rolling out the red carpet for developers, right? Yeah. Elmer's killing it right now. Mm-hmm. So I think translate that to the real estate industry. MLS operates as a giant pipeline of water. Yeah. Right. Realtor.ca has all of the mini pipes. TREB, the Toronto Real Estate Board, is the biggest one. ITSO is another really big one. That would be like Woodstock, Tillsonburg, Ingersoll, Chatham, Windsor, Kent areas a separate board, and Sarnia is closed. They don't want to combine because Sarnia agents are scared. A London agent's going to go list a property in Sarnia. You don't know Sarnia real estate. We're the only ones that can do it. Like they are brutal in Sarnia about collaboration. Okay. I'm like Blade. I'm like a day walker because I play in all these markets, right? Like I can walk with the humans and the vampires, and like I've sat on regulatory boards and I work with all of them because my team covers a huge territory. But I was in a leadership meeting the other day and somebody asked me my opinion. I'm like, you're not going to like it. And I was like, all of you need to get on the same page or I'm not going to need any of you. And they're like, what do you mean? It's organized real estate. Yeah. I said, it's organized real estate, but I'm building my own platform. I said, I can tap into your feed and I can just pay to get my data everywhere. Yeah. But the way you're all acting right now, the consumers can go to websites and get all of the data in one place with a better user interface, and which is why leads are going there. While you guys are busy infighting and not getting all on one system where we share data because we're all in the same industry, the consumers could care less. They're just going to go where it's quickest and fastest, like we talked about. And we're going to lose market share to companies that don't sell real estate, that are marketing companies that are selling back our own leads to us at 25 to 50% referral fees. So I list your house for sale, put it on the pipelines. This company takes the pipeline of data. You want to buy his house. So you type it in thinking you're getting the listing agent. You're not. You're getting some random marketing agent out there and they sell it back for a referral fee.
Wow.
It's wild, right? And I think you have people that are so concerned with the scarcity mindset that they don't understand where technology is going. Eventually, I'll just use AI and I'll build everything out myself. And you know, I'll be part of whatever systems I need to be part of. But the world's changing, and like your generation definitely understands something different about how to leverage technology to be more human and do more in less time. Where they're trying to use it, same as the old school guys with the book, they fought tooth and nail. We can't put our listings online. They won't need us anymore. If your value as a real estate agent is telling him what's for sale, you're already out of business. You just don't know it yet.
Yeah. And it's definitely where like the trend is going, right? Like for example, like our generation, even the younger generation, like everyone's is looking online, right? For stuff like they're not gonna be calling like yellow books. People don't even know what yellow books are. A lot of them,
yeah, any of that stuff's all gone. Newspapers kind of idea too. It's like all that's kind of fading out.
Look at the algorithms, even like further beyond that. Now you don't even want to search for stuff. TikTok gives it to you.
Yeah.
YouTube gives it to you. Instagram knows like, okay, now the algorithm is interest based, not follower based. Like I'm even thinking of deleting my Instagram account and starting over because smaller accounts are getting mad traction because I have 16,000 ish on Instagram. I bet you 11,000 of those aren't really the right people anymore because it's been 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's interest based. How cool is that? Like one of the things we're working on at Prime, because we do like one really weird thing about our brokerage. Most brokerages only do one thing: residential real estate in London, commercial real estate. We do it all. We have like a Navy SEAL team of experts, residential, commercial, land development. I have a cash crop advisor, actual grass-fed beef farm in my farm division.
Oh, wow.
Specialists, right? Like centralized command in terms of ethics, skills, marketing, negotiation. So like we're at the top to guide them, but they have decentralized command to go out and execute.
Yeah.
One thing we're working on is like our investors, they want us to find cash flowing opportunities. You're busy. You're running a podcast. So one thing we're working on internally, we do it manually now anyways. I do deal of the week every week. If you're an investor, you can sign up on the newsletter. You can get, hey, this is what we think is the best opportunity. It's got 2 vacant units that can be renovated. If you renovate it, our property manager says it could be worth this. This is probably what the renovation is going to cost you. Let me know. That's the future.
Yeah.
It's now you're not searching MLS anymore. It's how can I serve you opportunities? You want to buy a 50-acre hobby farm and move this out? So you have horses, bush, ride ATVs, do all the things that people are doing, to build the Joe Rogan compound. You want a 30,000 industrial square foot building.
Yeah.
That's where it's going, right? And I think that's exciting because the cream will rise to the top. There will be a place for everybody else. I just think that place will be Jeff Bezos buying Berkshire Hathaway and putting all those agents in a warehouse and paying them 1%. Yeah. And then guys like me, I can charge whatever I want. Because what I just explained to you is very valuable, right?
Yeah. And you also have like Prime Media Productions, which is very unique as well, right? Because like you have like the real estate stuff and then the production side as well. Is it hard to manage both? But they both create at the same time?
Not well, kind of, yes. So we built the brokerage just through force and will and consistency. So like I was the assistant and my wife, we did every aspect of the business, right? Until we were busy enough that we hired team members for it. The production company was the same thing. So I've always been a photographer. I've always shot video. I've edited. Back in the day, I took digital imaging and animation at Fanshawe. So I used to use Code, 3ds Max, Premiere Pro, and I was the production company for a long time. You can still go on Instagram and look up the Closers Daily, and I was doing Ripped It Off Daily V, Gary V's thing, and I was doing daily videos, and they're terrible. Like I put out thousands of them, and I read something in a contract. Hey, you should know this about the deposit clause. Just random facts before short form was even cool. I did that for years, and then listing videos were my big thing. So I started in 2013, ripped off an idea that I saw on $1 Million Listing. I think called my videographer. I'm like, we're doing this, and he's like, it's London, Ontario. Like video you sent me is in Colorado at like a crazy house. I'm like, it's fine. Stony Creek, 2,000 square foot bungalow. We'll make it work. And I've always had a passion for storytelling and creativity. So it just got to a point where my main job is vision, strategy, leadership, or servantship, if you want to call it that. So the production company, I went to the point of hiring a ton of creative directors, a ton of editors and graphic designers, pulled back from that because I realized I didn't want more clients on the production side. So we don't primarily do the production company to go out and do production work for people ad nauseum. It's still mainly for the real estate company, but we work in partnership. So a lot of times we do projects in construction, hospitality, fitness, legal, associated spaces with our referral partners in our ecosystem that want a storyteller, use content at a high level to do stuff. And by proximity of our ecosystem and our network, we've done some pretty cool work, and we're looking at what that looks like right now for next year. How does Prime Real Estate's business model synergize with the production company? And sometimes you got to think about outsourcing certain aspects of it rather than becoming an expert in it, and partnering with different companies so that you can collaborate rather than just trying to do everything yourself, right?
Do you feel your creative side is like linked because of your love for photography and trying to create stuff?
I think we're all naturally ingrained in us with a creative vibe, whether that be photos, words, video. I think absolutely I still remember it as a kid, we got given an assignment to take a movie and make your own movie from it. I forget the editing software. Okay. It was terrible. I was like, it was in grade 8, I think, or 9. It's a long time ago. And I took the movie Spaceballs, and I basically did my own cut from it. Right? Like I trimmed it up. I thought it was hilarious. Nobody else thought it was funny. But I remember watching it in class and watching that movie play with my voiceover and my cuts and my humor to it. And I was so proud of myself. Pretty sure I didn't get a good grade on it at all either. And it's the same thing with listing videos, because I think like I'm not the hero of the story. When I'm selling a property, I'm trying to tell the story of the house, and more importantly, to the person who's looking for that house. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the funnest things I get to do in my jobs, because I build out the entire treatment with my creative team. I put a lot of work into it, and then we get to execute. We do the media days on those, and then we get to see the results of it. Like, did what we create bring in the right person? And there's one I did recently that we're going to change. We actually rebooked a shoot in 2 weeks, because I did a showing, and the client was like, man, he's like, your video was awesome, but it didn't show me this, this, and this about the house, which he's the avatar of the buyer of this house. He may not buy it, but I'm like, we need to pivot and realize, put my ego aside, as much as I think that cinematography and everything we did was sick. Yeah. It's fun to create and try stuff, right? And whether you're a painter or you're a podcast producer, photographer, videographer, there's another great book called The War of Art, where like part of why I sleep well at night is I deploy all of this crazy energy daily. Yeah. And I think as human beings, we need an outlet for our energy. Otherwise we end up doom scrolling all night and feeling terrible because we didn't do anything productive throughout the day. Right. So that's definitely one of my main aspects of how I get this energy out, for sure.
And why the name Prime?
We were sitting in Grand Bend in our car watching boats go in and out. My wife had said, if you had a boat, what would you name it? Or I asked her the question, and she said Prime Real Estate. And we had been trying to name the company for a long time. Okay. And we didn't know, like it was called Grogan Konikow for a long time because it was me and her, right? Yeah. And we built it from the ground up, but we were, I think, 10 team members at that time. And if you went into a listing, they would be like, who's Grogan, who's Konikow? Yeah. Like, where are they? Mm. So we sat there and I was like, that's a sick name for a brokerage. There's no way that's available. I texted my lawyer. He checked and immediately he's like, trademark's available. I'm like, how? Yeah. I'm like, apply for it, because I was like, for sure it's going to get disputed. And then I was at a Bible study with one of my really good friends, and he's a big developer in London. And he's like, I love you, brother. He's like, you're Prime Real Estate. He's like, I love what you're doing. I love how you kind of go out in the community and you spread the positivity. And I got out of that Bible study with him and pulled up my email, and Rico was like, you have been approved for the name Prime Real Estate.
That's an amazing story.
The story is just amazing. So
yeah, that's awesome. And like you said, you work with your wife, right? Like I do business with my wife as well. Sure. How do you keep that dynamic balance and make sure it doesn't cross?
Yeah. Well, when I say we wrestle, I don't mean just physically. I mean, you have to put in effort into making sure you're in sync with your partner. I think, and I talked to her this morning. I'm like, we're not in sync right now. I traveled for 3 weeks. I feel like I've been on military deployment. I did Ryan Serent's event. I did Scott McGillivrary's event. And then I was back in Toronto for another event. I drove 47 hours in like 3 weeks. Yeah. Time, right? Like love is spelled Time. And like I talked to her, today's a crazy day. Tomorrow and Saturday is not. I'm at headquarters with her. And the most important meeting I can do before I talk to anybody else is to do what I call a sync meeting with her. And we keep the sync meeting format I learned from Dan Martell. I have a list that's called offload. And I have that with my executive assistant, all my team leads for all my divisions, my wife, my admin. And it sounds crazy, but the reason that we have the list is I'm not texting her stuff in the day. Hey, we got to do this. Hey, we got to do that. Because I'm interrupting her day. She's in flow. She's working, right? Yep. I have an offload list. Then I have my other lists, which is 1 day, 7 day, 30 day, 90, 365, and then 1 day. So then when I meet with her, we sit down, go over offload and roadblocks, and we'll go down that list, give each item a definition of done and a deadline. And then we'll put it on whatever list it needs to exist on. And sometimes 365 stuff, you put it on that list and you review it every now and then. You're like, that doesn't matter anymore. That doesn't matter anymore. Mm-hmm. But just going through the simple process of syncing, super important. Then we look at our calendar together. We're like, what's happening in the next 2 to 4 weeks? And we physically will scroll through week after week after week after week. And she tells me all kinds of stuff I didn't even know she has going on, doctor appointments, so things with a kid, whatever. And that's super helpful because then I can be there for her and be like, ooh, you got that going on. Okay, you know what? I'll be there that day. I'll move this appointment over here, whatever. Like we had some serious family stuff going on that we talked about for this podcast. You were very kind in making it work. But like if I say family's at the top, I locked myself down for 2 weeks to help with the family situation. And that's where I was, right? So like going through your offload, going through your calendar is super, super important. And then this is a tip from Ryan Serhant, told me in 2018, the most valuable thing he ever taught me. Make sure your wife has a clear picture on what you're doing and the ability to cancel any of your meetings after 6 p.m. You do not do anything after 6 p.m. unless it's approved by her. Giving her that ability to feel like that is going to make her feel like you're actually in partnership. Because men, specifically, we will convince ourselves, I'm out here hustling, I'm building, I'm doing this for the family, I'm making, like we all say the same BS, right? Half of us are doing it so we don't have to go home because we don't want to get in a fight with our spouses or we don't, kids are angry at us or whatever. We don't want to deal with the stress. But think about it, right? The stack I told you, if my heart's right with God, if my wife and my daughter know I love and respect them and they're the most important thing to me, if I'm physically and mentally clear and I'm doing things I love, I'm making time to fish or hunt or go golfing. Mm-hmm. By the time I get to the work's cool because that's taken care of. But in our life, we reverse it, right? We work all day, every day. We don't communicate with our spouses. We don't take care of our mental, physical health. We don't do the things we love. So we hate our jobs because it prevents us from doing all of those things. We blame our spouses because we have to be the money makers when in reality, it's us that's the problem. And we've got our priorities twisted. And then when you're front loading your calendar, you realize how little time you have to actually do the work, which goes back to what I said earlier. People are just not disciplined. So when it comes time to work, are you really working like in a 9-hour workday? Or are you scrolling TikTok? Are you doing things that you shouldn't be doing? And I think it's that pattern of discovery for each person. It's unique to each person. So back to your question, how do you really make sure that you're in partnership with your wife? Be in partnership with your wife.
Yeah. I never heard that. Like love is spelled Time.
Yeah, no, it's really well said. I did have a question because I was just going through your Twitter. I saw the one post was like kill celebrity agents. And the reason I just asked is like what kind of was the context with it? And like what do you mean by that?
Yeah, and it's a funny post because like people would look at me and say you're a celebrity agent, right? Like I wrote an article called Kill the Celebrity Real Estate Agent. It actually went national. I got a national speaking gig because of it. It featured in 2 large press organizations. And I talked to Ryan Serhant's CEO at the time, his right hand. We had a really interesting debate about it. Mm-hmm. The premise around that article was too many agents are worried about going viral on TikTok and not actually being good at the job. Okay. Right? They think that you need to become a celebrity real estate agent to be successful. When I can tell you a lot of celebrity influencer real estate agents barely sell any houses. I'm in that circuit. I know a lot of them, right? And I can tell you behind the scenes, the very few and far between. Like Salerno is a really good buddy of mine, crushes it where he's at. He's in Kleinberg. We did a great podcast with him. He's an operator. He knows, like if I call him right now, I'm like, Salerno, I'm sending you a $9 million lead. This is the area. What's the market? Dude, he's going to know every comp, every sale, who didn't sell the property with the right agent, where deals got done. That's what I'm paying for, right? And I think agents in this business, they're not getting the right mentorship because the industry is not built for it. I'm going to go down a wormhole here and vent again. Brokerages are no longer incentivized to train. They can't. They don't make enough money doing it. True. So you have like a bricks and mortar brokerages versus your online brokerages with their MLM kind of business models of, recurring revenue, and you recruit and you make money doing that way. So it's great. It's like King Kong and Godzilla battling it out. The brokerage used to be the place where you went to train, to learn, accountability, leads. They would watch every deal that you were doing to make sure the clauses were correct, like it's supposed to be. Yeah. Now, team leaders are now taking that role. So team leaders that work at brokerages are essentially the brokerage. The brokerage itself is an answering service and transaction coordination primarily, right? Okay. So they'll direct calls over to you. Your team leader is the one that's going to give you a lot of that guidance and leadership. Why I wrote the article was a wake-up call for the industry to get back to the basics. And there's only 3 things you need to do. I don't care what your industry is, specifically in real estate. You need to know the market. So you need to learn every day. What asset class do you sell? Where do you sell it? And are you watching the dailies? And do you actually know what you're talking about? Second thing you need to do is you need to build your business, and you need to train with other people that are excellent at what they do. Get around mentors that are going to teach you how to do it the right way. Third thing you need to do is you need to market yourself. You need to tell people what you know. That's the celebrity part, but that's the last part. If you don't know what you're talking about, don't talk about it. But too many people, bank rate drops. Dude, I watched those videos. Half of what the agents are telling you are just incorrect.
Yeah.
When the investment market was ripping 2020 to 2022, there were YouTuber agents running investment Ponzi schemes, essentially, right? And it was wild to see. I was in the industry, and a bunch of them wanted to work with us because we had big names behind us like Scott McGillivray and everybody else. I'm like, dude, I'm hitting singles and doubles.
Yeah.
All this flashy stuff, like, I'm not about that, because when the market shifts, you're going to be standing there holding the bag. It's going to be rough, right? And I think what that article summarized at the end was getting back to the craftsmanship of whatever you do. Podcast producing, videography, real estate, if you're a friggin' carpenter or a gardener. Are you actually good at your craft? And if you're not, that's okay. I don't feel like I'm the best at my craft. Most successful people still feel like they're just getting started, but that's where it should start.
Yeah.
The marketing should stem from that. And I think the pendulum's swinging. I do think we're going back to the age of the craftsmanship, where like the gamesmanship of building influence online. We've seen how that's changing. And now it's more about depth of relationship and depth of skill. And that, I think, is going to be the next shift that we're seeing, is a return of the age of the craftsman.
Yeah, because we were just talking that we were seeing some some real estate agents now being more creative with their listings. You know what I mean? Like they're either doing skits, trying to sell a house, or they're stumbling on words and saying that they're Gen Z editors, the one who edited it, right? All these creative ways. Like, are you a fan of those creative ways if the person is putting in the work behind that, or do you think that's kind of getting silly now on an asset class?
No, I think it's great. Like for those people, I think it speaks to them. I think you need to know who you are. That's not me, right? Like when people look at us, I think they think that I'm super connected. I think they think that we're very professional in our ethics. We can't be bought. Yeah. Those are like the three words I really think about that I've heard over and over from asking my people, like, why do you work with us? It's our reach, it's our ethics, and it's how professional we are and how we present ourselves. Would I present a $20 million property using a skit like that? No, because I don't think that I'm going to attract the buyer for that property using that skit, right? I think I'm going to get a lot of real estate agents and people that think it's funny on Instagram DMing me about it. But I'm not tied to vanity metrics, where I track where our deals come from. And most of our deals come from our lowest performing videos. And I said this to a builder last week. I can make any post go viral. I know how to do it. But if I'm looking for a specific type of buyer, that buyer is going to watch one of my listing videos 14 times because I tell him everything he can't find on MLS in that video. It may only get 200 views. And I've got ones that have 75, 78,000. Those are great from a broad reach perspective. But I think the agents that are doing them really need to understand that you got to be careful about what audience you build. Because here's the other pattern that you guys have seen. How many streamers, real estate agents, build online using the Andrew Tate effect, saying the most shocking thing that you can possibly say to build the profile, to build the audience. You build an audience, but then you realize it's all faceless trolls on Twitter that have nothing to add to your ecosystem, are never going to do business with you, and are literally just sitting in their mom's basement with Cheeto fingers, typing rage tweets all day. Yeah. Right. And like I've seen people build clout online with that skill and get press because of it. You got 79,000 followers. How many podcaster listeners do you have? How many views do you get on YouTube? How many subscribers do you have? That's problem is the world looks at the vanity metrics before they look at the actual content of the person's character. Yeah. So I think that's something I would be very careful of, because I've also seen creators that sold their soul to become streamers that can't get it back now. Yeah. Right. 100%. And that's what scares me. Like being with Sirhan, I said this to my wife, I don't want his fame. I want to fly under the radar. Yeah. You can't get to me versus you come via referral. You come via referral, I'll give you all of me. Mm-hmm. Come into my ecosystem, I want to co-sign. I don't want to go put my name on something just because I'm getting paid a couple bucks for it. I want you to have to earn that relationship with me. And I kind of want to have that mystique of like, you kind of know who I am, but you don't really know what I do. Versus just the virality and the fame, because I think that's a very dangerous thing for people these days.
Have you ever like got close to like kind of caving into that, like almost wanting the fame and like falling towards it?
For sure. I did another post. I'm going to take all my blogs I did on LinkedIn and put them on my website.
You should. You really should, honestly.
There was a recent situation I had with an agent where it was a very interesting conversation. So I had called this broker of record and had a discussion with him about a file on a vacant land deal. Small deal, $220,000 deal. And HST was not included. It was in addition to, because it's vacant land, and HST sometimes applies because if you're selling it as an investment, so on and so forth. And during the negotiation, his agent had switched it to HST included, and something got missed, right? And I called this broker of record and I had a discussion with him, and it's very interesting how he answered the phone. He was clearly at a party, maybe had a little bit to drink, so I'll empathize and assume that was the situation. Mm-hmm. But there was like something in his voice where there was something else beyond the conversation. And I explained to him, I said, hey, this is the situation. Like, they were negotiating in good faith. This got switched. I'd like you to discuss it with your agent so we can sort this out, because this isn't right. Like, our clients aren't going to deal with this, and it's going to be a legal problem. So let's deal with it broker to broker. Dude unloaded on me about all kinds of stuff. And I think he'd wanted to come work at Prime at some point in time. It didn't work out. He, at one point in time, had an assistant that came in and was doing some stuff that, like, I didn't like in terms of how he's interacting with our staff. And it was actually a bit of a distraction for me. So I blocked the assistant on Instagram. And I think I blocked him at one point, more so for myself, because I realized I was paying too much attention watching what they were doing, and it was a distraction from my business. So like I used to do that all the time. Or if I find myself looking at my competition, I would block them. Didn't realize I could unfollow them or like just remove them from my feed. I just did it, not thinking about it. Yeah. And he was really hurt about that. And so I messaged him back after the conversation. I was like, hey, like, the deal aside, just so you know, like, I didn't do that for you. And I sent him an article I actually wrote like 3 months prior about the blocking thing. I said, that was for my mental health, right? Where I was doing that to maintain my focus. I'm sorry if it hurts you. Like, I just unblocked you. I could care less. Like, you know, there's lots of business out there for everybody. He never responded, and neither here nor there. But it goes back to your question, where I did put guardrails in place early on in my career, where I would be looking at my competition, wondering why they were going viral when I wasn't, or I wasn't growing as fast, and like hating on myself. Meanwhile, I have signs everywhere and the team's growing, and like we're in London, Ontario, and we have national reach. Yeah. Like, we're getting asked to speak on stages that people would kill. So what am I complaining about? Right. And I think that's something that everybody watching this can associate with, from you're just getting started to you have an actual business or team. We're all human at the end of the day. And I think, going back to your question, it is something I probably still struggle with daily, but it's going back to my format of making sure that I'm praying daily. As much as I think I'm hype and look at what we built, it's not me, it's you. So if you want to take it away tomorrow, go for it, because I'm not defined by that. If the people that are riding with me are only riding with me because I have access to people like that, you're not really my friend. My friends are the people that I cannot talk to for 5 years, FaceTime, and we're boys. Like, you want me to win. The people that are there temporarily because I'm making them money or I can get them in front of a Sirhan, I'll find out real quick where they land. So yeah, I think you have to put some guardrails in place for yourself.
No, 100%. That's amazing.
I know that you were seeking out Sirhan's mentorship back in 2018, and then he said that he doesn't do that. You offered him $10,000 and he said no. Come back next year. Like take us through how that felt, and your emotion behind that.
This will be good for your audience, for anybody looking to get to a mentor. And like, I've developed a pretty amazing ecosystem of people doing the same thing. So like Benji Travis, Sean Cannell, Chris Doe, like, these are people I know on a first name basis. And eventually, I'm putting this out there because it's going to happen, I'm going to do PrimeCon. Probably have to do it in Toronto from a event space perspective, but I want to bring together all my YouTuber friends and all my real estate friends and all my media friends in one place, because they're way more synergistic than you'd imagine, right? And put them all in a space. The Ryan thing, this is how I did it, and this is how I did it with all those people. I went to meet Ryan through Jazz Takar. He'd be a great guest for your podcast.
Yeah, we saw him. Yeah, no, we didn't meet him, but we saw him at Expand.
Okay.
Yeah, an event, a real estate event.
Yeah. So Jazz is my boy. Like, he's family. Okay. Yeah. So he called me in 2018. He's like, I want to start a YouTube channel. How do I do it? So I went down, I showed him. He doesn't even use the laptop. So brought down my creative director, showed him. He did it. First guest was Ryan Sirhan, because Jazz is really good at getting anybody on his show. He will message nonstop for 5 years to get you. So Jazz comes back. He's like, yo, you got to meet this guy. I'm like, what's he going to teach me? You know, I'm in London. And he's like, just go. He's like, I trust Jazz implicitly. I'm like, sure. So I got 2 of my boys that don't even shoot. And I'm like, here's my old school Ronin that was 47 pounds and my camera. Shoot the whole thing. We'll shoot a podcast. Met Ryan. The podcast was essentially going to be, how'd you build your business? And kind of like this. I didn't air it because I asked Ryan a simple question. I was like, how'd you build your team? He told me everything. Contract splits, gave me everything, blueprint. Got in the cab and I was about to hire a very well-known coach. Texted my wife. I'm like, yo, that coach doesn't even sell real estate. Ryan's doing what I want to do. You cool if I offer it to him? Offered it to him. He said no. He's like, I don't do that, but come back to Soho anytime. Spoke to his character that he didn't just take the paycheck. And then I was like, bet. I'm going to make this happen. Read one of his books and he talked in his books about the wow effect. So like how he gets business with the developer is he'll literally send you a bookcase to your house and then send you a book every week until you take the meeting with him because you're like, why is this random person sending bookcases and books to me, right? Did the same thing with him. I had Dean Cain. I paid for a cameo and I had the guy that used to play Superman explain why he needs to mentor me. Sent that to him, didn't get a response. I just kept up. And about a year later, I actually did two things. One, I sent his team all of my standard operating procedures, copy and pasted them from my Google Doc because I knew that they hadn't really built some of that stuff out. They were really good at branding, not doing the systems as much as I was. Sent that to not Ryan, to his assistant because I knew they'd implement it. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Didn't ask for anything. And then I came back a year later for that meeting and I was like, yo, this is what you told me. This is what I did. New problems. And that's what developed the relationship. So most mentors and entrepreneurs will tell you to do something. I gave 57 action items in this podcast. 1,000 people watch this video. 3 or 4 of them will actually do it. Mm-hmm. Most mentorships I've ever had have been me asking a complex question, trying to give. If they're promoting a book, I can see that they have a hole. If I don't have the answer, connecting with somebody, not asking for money, just making the connection, bouncing, going quiet, and then coming back and being like, yo, this is what I did what you told me. New problems. And sometimes when I do what they told me, I didn't do it the way they said. I'm very different than Ryan. The fact that I just did it gets you a new level of access. And Ryan, Scott, all the people I mentioned was like hundreds of hours, years in the making. And he probably didn't know me for the first 3 years. But after the 4th year, he's like, who's this random kid that keeps showing up? Now he's got like 20 people working for him in a production company. Like, then they pay attention.
Yeah.
And every successful person I've ever met loves pouring into those types of people. They don't like people telling them, can I take you for coffee? Cost me money, cost me time.
Yeah.
But they love pouring into a kid that has the drive and will actually do what you tell them. That's it. That's the answer.
Yeah. And how did you become a Scott McGilvery entrusted real estate agent? Oh, really?
Jazz called me and was like, yo, we're doing a big conference in Toronto. He worked for Scott at the time. And I thought it was a scam. And I was like, no. And I went home to talk to my wife. She's like, are they asking you to pay anything? I'm like, no. He's like, I heard you're an expert at investments. Just come bring in off-market properties, talk about London. So I went to the first summit and I just have this habit of just saying yes to things and doing it. Showed up there with like a binder. And I think Mark was with me at the time, overwhelmed. And there were straight killers in that entire building. Greybrook Realty Partners, biggest land developers in North America, top teams across Canada, only one per market. And I just asked, why are you here? Why are you here? You don't need to be here. And they're like, the people you're around are all driven. So you get all the service provider access and you build those relationships. Yeah. The investors paid a lot of money to be there. So very high quality leads. Mm-hmm. So like if I was going to do a course, which I am, on productivity, because I have like 80 people that ask me, like, can you show me, like, map out how you map out your day? The offload boards, like, can you do a Zoom? Like, sure, we'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to have to charge a fee so that the people that are there, I know are bought in and they're going to do it. Because when you offer something for free, they don't care. Yeah. They just show up, they take the free food, they bounce, nothing changes in their life because they don't feel like they're bought in or committed to the process. With the Scott McGilvery thing, it was the same thing as Ryan. Showed up to the first summit. I walked right up to Scott after. I was like, I'm going to build out an entire division at Prime just for your Keyspire members. I said it very professionally. It was me and like 2 other people in a closet. Right. And then I got back. I'm like, SOPs. How do we take the investors? How do we make them comfortable in London? Mark and I would drive them around for 2 hours. We're like, that's not a good use of our time. What I said to you, we can run analysis for them, save them time. They don't have to come to London. If they're looking for renovation opportunities, we can preview them, FaceTime, do videos. And we started building out the system. And it took 2 or 3 years before Scott knew who I was. And now we're on a texting basis. He looks at deals I send him all the time. He's family. Like, that's awesome. And what's cool is their ecosystem, just like Sell It, just like this is going to be, I'm sure, year after year, they're always leveling up. And it makes me level up. Like I did an event with the McGillivray Fund. So they just launched another fund doing another massive building for a very VIP group of investors. I was at the dinner because Scott asked me to come and I brought 6 people with me, 5. I'm like, I left the event. I'm like, oh, I got to level up. Like if they're playing at this level, I got to make sure that our team is dialed.
Yeah.
And the people that I'm bringing to the event are in the same ecosystem. Right. Yeah. So that's it, man. It's just life's a game from the standpoint that you can gamify it just like World of Warcraft or COD or anything else. The difference is you do this and you keep leveling up your skills, you're going to make real money doing it. Right.
And it's interesting because one consistent theme is you being a servant that has throughout this whole podcast, whether it be to like people above your own team, like you just always felt the need to serve. Right. I know we're almost running out of time. So I have one more question for you. Would the little kid version of you be proud of the man you are today?
That's a good question. No, because I'm not. I'd probably feel this way till I die, right? Like, at the end of the day, the little kid version of me would be proud of me if he's proud of me when I get to the finish line. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because like I still feel like a white belt that I've got places to level up in my life in every aspect, right? So I'm gonna say no.
Interesting. That's maybe one of the first no's we the reason why we asked that question is because like I feel like the little kid version of you is like the genuine version of you.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So it's interesting that you said no because you still have a lot to accomplish, it seems like.
Giant chip on my shoulder, I'm sure, right? Like went through a termination recently that was interesting. And I feel, like I said it earlier, he'll close and open doors for reasons. And I actually think the version of Prime next year is going to be bonkers. We're working on some technology stuff that like could be the actual breakthrough that makes us more money than anything. And I'm excited about that because I do think like too many people are chasing success. I think chase failure, right? You go work out, you chase failing. Like when you want to hit a PR, you got to chase failure.
Yeah.
You want to convert a lead, get someone in your podcast, you got to chase no. And once you realize that chasing failure and not being tied to is the little kid version of me proud, nobody owns me. I can say what I want, do what I want, and I'm not going to go home and cry about it. I'm going to look at I'm going to look at myself from a real perspective as to how am I actually doing versus this pumped up version I have in my head that I'm trying to put forth on social media. And I think the more you can get into that space, the more you'll level up faster.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Awesome. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to get off your chest, share with our audience?
No, you guys are killing it. Like I think what the ecosystem I felt when I walked in here from both the company that you're in alignment with, the other creative gentlemen that I ran into and the people that are around you, you're doing something. Like I can kind of feel it when I walk into these spaces too. So I would just say like, shut out the noise, put on the blinders and just keep leveling up. So
yeah, thank you. That. Appreciate that.
That was a spectacular, like just learning from you, hearing how you like, it was amazing.
But go replay the daily,
the
routine.
Yeah, literally.
Dialing on that.
So I'm actually like I don't want to do a course because I don't really want to sell anything. And I've always fought against this forever. And like some mentors I have are like, no, you actually need to. Like people want to be able to buy some of this stuff. We're doing a private Zoom call. There's 78 people registered. I'm not charging anything for that. I can send you the link to that. And it's the productivity mapping.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that one-on-one with a whole bunch of people across North America. And then I'll build out the syllabus from that. So I will build something out down the road, but if you want access to that, I can give that to you.
Yeah,
that'd be amazing.
Love that.
For sure. I'll send you the link.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Yeah, and for all those the audience who've watched thus far, you guys got spoiled with an amazing guest over here.
Crazy
and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
I didn't realize that was live, so they can have the link too.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Peace.
See you guys.